Hey folks, it's Mira Dessy, the Ingredient Guru, and I am here again to talk with you about the prepared pantry, things that you can do to make sure that you have resources available in your kitchen to feed and nourish your family. So I did get a question from someone who wanted to know what to do if you didn't have any eggs. And that's actually a really great question. So eggs are in some cases, some people have reported that they don't have a lot of eggs in their grocery store. Other people report that they have plenty of eggs. There may be, in your grocery store, you may not have enough of them. So knowing what you can use to substitute them is great. There's also an opportunity for people who want to eat vegetarian or vegan who don't want to use eggs. You can substitute. And then there sometimes may also be people who have food intolerance issues, and so they can't have eggs. And knowing how to substitute for that, because believe it or not, there are a number of things that can replace eggs in baking, is a great idea. So I wanted to start by talking to you about what is an egg, like what does an egg do? So the nutritional content of eggs is that they're about 12% fat, 13% protein, 72 or 73% water, and then the rest is minerals. So they're actually very nutritious. They're delicious and good for us, but they do have a number of health benefits. They provide a good fat and a healthy source of protein. When you're using eggs in baking, they tend to provide structure to the baked goods, and they also emulsify what's going on with the batter. So emulsifying is where it takes all these ingredients and puts them together. So it helps them stay together and then they don't separate when you're baking them. Using eggs also helps with something called the Maillard reaction. And this is where when proteins are heated, they turn this nice, delicious looking brown color. And if you ever want to see what the difference is, try making a recipe with eggs and making it without eggs. And the one without eggs is going to have a much paler color to it. Eggs also help with moisture. That's because they are mostly water. If you're using something that is egg yolks only, it's going to be much richer. If you're using something that's egg whites only, you can make it fluffier because you can beat the egg whites and get a little bit of what's called loft, and then add that into your baked goods so you get fluffier baked goods that way. So that's definitely a good thing. One of the other things that I wanted to do is mention that with eggs, sometimes you may want to make substitutions, not because you don't have eggs, but because you're trying to save your eggs. You want to eat them either as scrambled eggs or a quiche or whatever. And so rather than using them in baking, you want to substitute something else. My first egg substitute, and the one that I tend to use the most, is ground flax seeds. And this is where you take flax seeds, grind them up. I actually have a special little coffee grinder, and on the front of it in very big Sharpie letters it says "not for coffee," because people in my house tend to use it for coffee, and then it tastes terrible when you're chopping up seeds and nuts and other things like that. So we have two, one for coffee, one not for coffee. But anyhow, so you grind up the flax seeds. It's 1 tablespoon of ground flax seeds to 3 tablespoons of water, replaces an egg, and that works for up to 3 eggs in a baking recipe. So it's a good substitution. It's very easy. You can also use chia seeds. And again, it's 1 tablespoon of chia seeds to 3 tablespoons of water. However, I don't tend to use that one because with the chia seeds, you need to hydrate them first. So you need to help them soak them so that they expand and get a little bit bigger and they get that sort of mucilaginous coating on them. So that's definitely something that you want to be aware of, that you need to soak them. Another thing that you can use is arrowroot. And if you're someone who follows, gluten-free eating pattern, then you're probably going to have arrowroot in your kitchen. If you're not, it is something that you might want to consider. Arrowroot is also a great substitution, 1-for-1 for cornstarch. So it's very useful. But you can use 2 tablespoons of arrowroot and 3 tablespoons of water to replace 1 egg in baking. Another thing that you can use is something called aquafaba. And I'm going to confess, I've tried it once. I didn't like it very much because it made the muffins that I was making a little bit drier. And so I didn't try it again to see if it was me or the muffin recipe or the aquafaba. But aquafaba is definitely something you can use. So what is aquafaba? It is the liquid that comes from soaking chickpeas. So if you have canned chickpeas, that liquid that you usually tend to pour off and throw away is actually aquafaba. It can replace an egg. You use 3 tablespoons of aquafaba to replace 1 egg. Aquafaba actually also has a very unusual quality to it. It can be whipped into a meringue. So something else to keep in mind if you happen to need it for that purpose. If you're looking for a slightly sweeter touch to your baked goods, you can use certain fruits as a substitute for eggs, applesauce or mashed bananas. And it's 1/4 cup of each to replace an egg in baking. With the applesauce, I have done that, and I find that it usually makes things very moist. It also makes them a little chewier, but it gives a very sweet flavor. So when you're out of eggs, that's certainly a great substitute. Bananas are good. I don't tend to use them as much in baking, except perhaps for pancakes, because they tend to make it the consistency a little bit sticky. So it's not bad. It's just a little bit, sticky. So to watch out for that. Yogurt is another really good substitute, 1/4 cup of yogurt. So obviously if you're a vegan, you're not going to do that because you're not eating animal products. But if you are not a vegan and you can eat dairy, 1/4 cup of yogurt is a great last minute substitute for an egg in a baked good recipe. And then the last one, which I have not tried, but I've heard from a couple of people is a really great substitution. So the next time I need to bake something, I'm absolutely going to try it, is carbonated water. Now, this one apparently is not a great choice for cookies, but it is great for muffins or other things like that. It gives a loft. It raises them up. So it's great for quick breads or muffins or even pancakes, things like that. So those are some of the things that you can use in your prepared pantry as you're looking to substitute for eggs. If you have any questions about any of this, or you want to know what are some other things that you can substitute or work with in a prepared pantry, please leave a question down below. I'm happy to answer that and get back to you. And in the meantime, thanks for watching and stay tuned for more. Take care. Bye.